beautiful, serene countryside in the heart of Picardy, France. It's difficult to picture or imagine the horrendous fighting that took place here 104 years ago. Known as the Thiepval sector, this area was on the front line when the Battle of the Somme commenced on the 1st of July 1916. Today, this small area bears the memorials and sites to those killed or lost during the battle. Ulster Tower, Mill Road Cemetery, Connaught Cemetery, Mouquet Farm, and Thiepval Memorial, the memorial to the missing on the Somme, bearing the names of some 72,156 soldiers whose resting place is unknown. 104 years ago, this area, like many others, was covered with a maze of trenches and fortifications. After 3 months of fighting, the land you see here still wasn't completely in the hands of the British or her Empire forces. To the northeast of Thiepval lies Stuff Redoubt. This redoubt was part of the Germans' second line. Known as the Mouquet Switch Line or Midway Line, the redoubt linked to Mouquet Farm and Pozières to the east, and to the formidable Schwaben Redoubt to the west. An objective for the 36th Ulster Division on the 1st of July, there is evidence that a few did reach the edge of the redoubt, but heavily outnumbered and cut off, those who could returned to their own lines by the end of the day. It's just over a mile from the front line 1st of July 1916 to Stuff Redoubt. It would take till the 26th of September, some 88 days after the battle started, for the British forces to fight their way back to the southern face. On the 27th of September, 2 battalions in particular were involved in the capture of the southern face of the redoubt. The 6th Battalion Yorkshire Regiment, the Green Howards, and the 9th Battalion West Yorkshire Regiment. At 10:45 am, the West Yorkshires were ordered to move up in support of the 34th Brigade and occupy the trenches around the recently captured Mouquet Farm. At 11:30, the Green Howards were also ordered to move up in support on the left of the West Yorkshires. By 2 p.m, the lead battalions of the West Yorks had reached a small quarry 300 yards southwest of Mouquet Farm. At 2:30, orders were received that 0 hour was 3 p.m, and they were to attack their line point 99 to 97 Hessian Trench. To their right of point 99, they would be in touch with the Canadians, and on the left, the Green Howards, who would attack from point 97 along Stuff Redoubt. A barrage would commence at 3 p.m, and would lift beyond the objective at 8 minutes past 3. The assembly positions were along the line of Zolleren Trench. By 2:55 p.m, the attacking formation of B and C Company of the Green Howards were in position in Zolleren Trench. 5 minutes later, at 3 p.m, they received a message that the attack was postponed by an hour. Unfortunately, this message did not reach the West Yorks, who commenced their attack from High Trench. The battalion came under heavy machine gun fire, and a great mass of barbed wire around Zolleren Redoubt misled the Yorks. They lost direction, and instead of reaching Hessian Trench, they arrived and captured the southern face of Stuff Redoubt at around point 55 at 3:15 p.m. 4 p.m, the Green Howards advanced. They attacked and captured points 91 to 45 and arrived at Stuff Redoubt to find the West Yorks holding it. Blocks were established between 55 and 87 and 45 and 18. As both battalions were now mixed, the senior officer, Captain Archibald Cecil Thomas White, took command. Over the next 4 days, Captain White and this composite battalion of the West Yorks and the Green Howards defended the southern face of the redoubt, as well as try and capture the northern face. At dawn on the 28th, they tried to capture points 38 to 87, but this failed. The trench line, point 97 to 99, was still in German hands. At 6 p.m, the 8th West Riding Regiment were ordered to attack. The composite battalion in Stuff Redoubt were ordered to cooperate with the attack to capture Hessian Trench by advancing along the trench line and capture points 87 and 97. The West Riding Regiment failed to reach their assembly positions in time, and the attack was postponed. The garrison Stuff Redoubt did not receive this notification and attacked at 6 p.m. They did capture the 2 points, but short of bombs and no support to their right, they had to fall back to their original positions. On the 29th, orders were again received to attack the northern face. This assault was carried out and positions captured, but they could not be held owing to a shortage of ammunition and bombs. At 12 noon, the 6th Yorks and Lancs Regiment were ordered to attack and consolidate Hessian Trench to a point to the right of Stuff Redoubt. And again, the same time, the Composite Battalion in the Redoubt were to attack and hold points 87 and 97. This attack was partially successful. Hessian Trench was taken, but owing still to a lack of ammunition and bombs, points 87 and 97 had to be given up. Touch was lost between the Composite Battalion in the Redoubt and the Yorks and Lancs in Hessian Trench. At 4 p.m. the following day, the 30th, another attack was attempted by the garrison in the Redoubt and the Yorks and Lancs in Hessian Trench. This attack was successful and the whole line was joined up and consolidated. On the evening of the 30th, the Composite Battalion in the Redoubt was relieved by the 10th Battalion Cheshire Regiment. The Green Howards casualties for the 4 days were 15 officers and 381 other ranks. For the West Yorkshires, of the 4 companies that had attacked and occupied the Redoubt on the 27th, only 1 officer and 24 other ranks answered the roll call on the morning of the 1st of October. For his leadership of the Composite Battalion in the Redoubt, Captain Archibald White was awarded the Victoria Cross. His citation states, "For 4 days and nights by skillful disposition he held the position under heavy fire of all kinds against several counter-attacks. Although short of supplies and ammunition, his determination never wavered, and when the enemy attacked in greater superior numbers and almost ejected our troops from the Redoubt, he personally led a counter-attack which finally cleared the enemy out of the southern and western faces." During the morning of the 30th of September, 2 officers per company, the signalling and bombing officers of the 10th Cheshires, formed an advance party with the objective of seeing as much of the line as possible. At 5:30 p.m, B and D Company proceeded up to the line and relieved the Composite Battalion. B Company held the line west of point 45, where there was a block, through 55, 87 and 97. D Company held points 45 to 91. During this relief, the battalion lost 3 men. One of them was Private Harper Houlding, aged 25, from Birkenhead. Harper's body was not recovered, and he's named on Teaval Memorial. A and C companies were in trenches near to the battalion headquarters, which was approximately here. Supporting the Cheshires, the 1st Battalion Wiltshire Regiment took up positions in Joseph Trench, Danube Trench and Constance Trench. At 5 p.m. on the 1st of October, orders were issued to the Cheshires to make an attack on the north face of the Redoubt. This was to be carried out the next day. D Company moved up, manning points 45 round to point 97. During the morning of the 2nd, detailed orders were issued and preparations were made for the attack. 0 hour was fixed for 3:30 p.m. However, the weather was bad, and with the heavy rain and poor visibility at 3:20, the Cheshires received a message to say the attack was postponed. For the following 7 days, the Cheshires moved in and out of the line, waiting for the weather to improve. On the 6th, the plan for the attack was flagged out in a valley south of Mouquet Farm, and the afternoon was spent practicing. During the afternoon of the 7th, the weather had cleared slightly. 0 hour was fixed for 12:50 p.m. on the 8th. But again, the weather closed in and the attack was cancelled. The Cheshires were pulled back from the front. During the night of the 8th, orders were verbally issued that the attack was to take place on the 9th. 9th of October 1916, the battalion moved back into the line and were in position by 10 a.m. A hot meal was issued to the men at 11. The battalion headquarters was established 50 yards south of point 45, and 0 hour was fixed for 12:35 p.m. During the morning, heavy artillery bombarded the communication trenches near to point 18. At 12:35, field artillery opened up an intense barrage in front of points 18 to 80. B Company formed up in no man's land and advanced immediately in 3 waves. A few Germans started to fire, but the advance was rapid, and the Cheshires were in the trench lines between 18 and 58 before they could man it in strength, and fortunately before they could bring a machine gun into action, which was captured undamaged. A bombing party advancing down Stump Road from point 97 to 80 also met with little resistance. By 1 p.m. the Cheshires had advanced over the first objective and had reached a point 150 yards north from point 18, where they made double blocks. Point 80, where the German battalion headquarters had been, the bombing party had advanced 100 yards further down Stump Road, and a block was formed. Unfortunately here, all communications with the artillery had been cut, and the block came under fire from their own artillery. Twice the block was destroyed and twice rebuilt. Eventually it had to be evacuated, and a barricade was made at point 80. On the left, at the blocks along the communication lines 150 yards north of point 18 and 38, the Germans counterattacked. A stiff bombing fight ensued, and for a while the Cheshires held their own, but after suffering numerous casualties they had to give ground. New blocks were made 100 yards in front of point 18 and 70 yards in front of point 38. During all this period, the Germans were shelling the southern side of the Redoubt and Hessian Trench, making it difficult to get supplies of ammunition and bombs up to the front. At 4:30 p.m, German artillery began to put a severe barrage on point 80. At 5 p.m, they counterattacked up Stump Road, but this attack was repulsed. At 6 p.m, they tried again but were stopped by British artillery fire. By 7 p.m, the situation became quieter, except for a bit of intermittent shelling around point 80. The following day, the 10th Cheshires were relieved by the 8th Battalion Loyal North Lancashire Regiment, and the redoubt was held. The battalion casualties for the 9th were 8 officers wounded, 24 other ranks killed, 87 wounded, and 26 missing. This is Stump Road today. Just as the lane goes into the sunken part is where point 80 was, and where the German 111th Reserve Infantry Regiment headquarters was positioned. We now follow the line of what was the northern edge of the redoubt, attacked by the Cheshires on the 9th. In the distance, the Cross of Sacrifice marking the location of Grand Corps Road Cemetery. Pulling back now towards the centre of the redoubt, you can see how open the land is. In the distance, Thiepval Memorial. And just beyond the trees is Mouquet Farm. Point 97, fought over so many times those last few days of September 1916. The 10th Cheshires would make one final visit to the redoubt before leaving the Somme area. On the 18th they were along this line in Hessian Trench. In the distance, Stump Road Cemetery. On the 21st of October, they garrisoned the redoubt as attacks were made to capture Regina Trench, just a few hundred yards from this point.